Sorry, Igor, I should have said it right away, but I just didn't have enough courage. I'm getting married to Volodya, his beloved Anya, for which he was ready for anything, with which he met the dawn a few days ago. All this was not in my head, and it looked like some kind of evil joke. Stupid Rose Roof. It seemed that the girl would now laugh and say, "They deceived the fool with 4 fists. But Anna continued to explain something quietly. "We don't want to lose you, Volodya. We must keep our friendship, and I'm calling to invite you to our wedding." Igor ended the call in some kind of dismay. The state of shock covered him with a suffocating wave. He grabbed his head with both hands and screamed like an injured beast. To lose 2 dear people at once, his beloved girlfriend and best friend, was unbearably painful, although they say that men do not cry. But the grief from the feeling that he was betrayed was stronger than him. Igor felt as if hot and salty tears rolled on his cheeks. "So, invite." He took a big gulp and said, "You will have a wedding, and there will be a joke, which you can laugh at. I will show you, traitors." What will he do, and what exactly will he show? Igor had no idea at that moment. He knew only one thing. Early in the morning he will get in his car and go to the wedding to his ex-friend and ex-wife. He was working all night. He couldn't fall asleep. A kind memory made him feel happy, like the footage from the movie where he saw Anna. Her smile, the wide open eyes, the wavy hair growing in the wind. She remembered how they met. Igor walked through the park. He saw some girl swinging on the swing. She literally flew up and soared over the ground. Like a little butterfly, there was some kind of special magic in this scene. Igor refused to take his eyes off the stranger. Anya swallowed all his attention, made him forget about everything and everyone. Only her heart belonged to him. Igor still thought that Anna also treated him the same way, but as it turned out today, he was deeply mistaken. She lied to me. All this time she lied. He thought. He couldn't handle the insomnia. In the morning, barely before dawn, Igor got up and set off. The windows of the car were lit by the villages, roadside cafes and shops. Already approaching the city, he suddenly realized that he really wanted to drink. Igor stopped by a small shop on the highway, where they were selling all sorts of stuff that a traveler might need on the road. Near the store, on a turned wooden box, a little girl, 6 years old, was sitting, wrapped in a knitted jacket, with a bouquet of garlands in her hands. Strange. Such a small girl, sitting here from morning to morning, Igor thought, entering the store. After leaving the pavilion with a bottle of water in a couple of minutes, he stopped by the girl. She gave him a look full of prayer and sadness. As the old woman had in her head, "Uncle, please buy flowers. I will not give them for free." "Quiet," almost crying, said the girl. Igor sighed. From this voice and from this begging look, he somehow became not on his own. "Of course I will buy," he answered, finding a piece of paper in his pocket. "How much is your bouquet? How much do you not feel sorry for?" "Uncle, you just give it and that's it." And the girl said, "Thank you, Thomas." And again Igor was amazed by her adult words. He really wanted to know more about her, but the feeling of resentment and desire for revenge now took over him. It drove forward, there, to the wedding of 2 traitors. Igor quickly took out the largest pen from the paper that he had and stretched the baby. She scaredly waved her hands. "Uncle, what's wrong? It's a lot. Take it, go home. You don't have to sit here on the highway. You're still too young for that." The girl smiled. There were holes on her cheeks, and on her raised nose. Suddenly the spring flowers were dancing. At that moment, she showed Igor such a cute, close, dear, that he couldn't hold back and asked, "What's your name?" She was embarrassed. She blushed, but answered, "Elena." "You have a good name, a fairy tale name." "Well, goodbye, Sister Elena," he said, heading to the car. "Goodbye, Uncle," she shouted, and waving his hand, she happily let her go to the side of the village. How little a child needs for happiness, thought Igor, arranging the bouquet on the next seat and moving from place. He was driving and imagined how he would enter the hall with this bouquet in his hands, how he would throw flowers in the face of 2 traitors, look them in the eyes and proudly leave, forever, so as never to see them again. "That's how I say goodbye to them," he thought. Having arrived at the destination, Igor parked his car near the institution, where very soon his beloved will become a legal wife of a completely different person, his former friend, Volodya Klopov. He took the bouquet, turned it around, and a small note was written on the side. He smiled, remembering the spring on the nose of Olenka and the holes on her cheeks, and then turned the message around. On a leaflet in a cell, a small children's hand brought out words with large printed letters. Thank you for buying these flowers. I grow them myself. Your money will go to my mom for medicine. Thank you for helping me and my mom. Yours, Aliona. Igor froze. The leaf shivered in his hands. Can such flowers be given to traitors, even if you decided to throw them in their face? Of course not. He looked for someone in the crowd. His gaze stopped at a sad woman who, hiding behind the column, looked out the door of the office. Igor took a decisive step towards her and stretched the bouquet. It's for you. The girl threw a surprised look at him. Me? For what? Just like that. He saw how the face of the stranger shone with a weak smile, and she seemed to him very even pretty. Igor decided to cancel his revenge. I have more important things to do than arrange a concert at the wedding of people who are not worthy of even a scandal, he decided. We need to find Elena, find out what else we can help her and her mother. He returned to the same store on the highway. Elena was not here. Only the wooden box on which she had recently sat was standing by the porch. Igor went into the store and turned to the smiling, happy saleswoman and asked, "Where does Elena live?" "Yes, on the main street. Their house is on the right side, third from the end. And if you get lost, ask someone. Everyone in Berezkino knows them. Ekaterina is sick, and Alenka, the assistant of Mom, is growing. Although she is small, she understands everything." Igor went out of the store and smoked. Berezkino. Such a familiar name? Of course. In this Berezkino once lived his now already ex-friend, Volodka Klopov. 7 years ago, he came here to visit his friend, returning from the army, and stayed for several months. There was nowhere and no one to return to Igor. Igor slowly drove up to the house where the girl and her mother lived. And the closer the destination of his trip was, the stronger the white heart, and the traitorous lump rolled up to his throat. This just can't be, he thought. And why now? Is this some kind of sign? It turned out to be exactly that. Alenka lived in exactly that house, near which he waited for a beautiful girl Katya 7 years ago, who swore eternal love. The house from which he once left for one day to come back here in 7 years. It was then that he met Anna and forgot about everything. And now he's back. And Anna was the reason for this return again. Igor stood by the gate. In the yard, he noticed Alianka, who was taking care of flowers with a very mature mind. "Hi, Elena. I read your note and she touched me so much that I decided to come back and find out how else I could help you." The girl blushed, was embarrassed and said in a stupid way, "Actually, I put notes in a bouquet, but you are the first one who came back. May I come in? I want to meet your mother." "Yes, come in, uncle, let's go. I'll walk you home." They entered the house. There was dark cheese in the hay, and only when Alianka opened the door to the room, the space shone with light. In the room, on the bed, leaning on high, beaten pillows, a young woman was sitting and knitting something. She was terribly pale. There was no blood in her face. Next to her, on the chair, there was a medicine and a water bottle. The sound of the opening door was the owner's eyes. "Igor, you?" she asked, as if not believing her eyes. "You're back?" Igor nodded, unable to believe in the metamorphoses that happened to a young, beautiful girl who he probably loved. The disease turned her into an old woman, sucked out all the juices from her. "Mom, this is the same uncle who gave me a lot of money for my bouquet." Katerina sighed heavily. Tears rolled down her eyes. "This is not an uncle, daughter. This is your dad." The baby jumped on the little monkey with the grace of a little monkey and immediately hung on the neck of the man. "Dad, Daddy, you're back from space, and you'll never fly there again?" Igor's heart was broken. He pressed his little body and, barely holding back his tears, whispered, "No, baby, I will always be with you." The girl then freed herself from Igor's clutches, looked carefully into his eyes and said, "Then I'll go tell them that my dad is back, because they didn't believe that my dad was an astronaut and called me without a father." Igor carefully let his daughter down to the floor, who immediately, with screams, "My dad came and threw herself out on the street." Igor looked at Katya questionably. "And why did you keep silent for so long? Why didn't you tell me anything?" Katya sadly waved her hands. "At first, when you left and disappeared, I was scared. I thought something had happened to you. And then I found out that you are happy and you have a completely different life, in which neither I nor my future child had a place. And now I wanted to look for you. You see, I have little left, and I don't want Elena to end up in an orphanage or at some other person's place. After all, she is your daughter. You can check how you want to analyze, but Elena is our child with you, Katya. I don't even doubt that. Moreover, We will get together now and go together to me. I will do everything to make you better and become the same Katya." Catherine smiled sadly and shook her head skeptically. She opened her mouth to say something, but Igor stopped her. "Forgive me, Katya. I, without suspecting it, was in the ranks of traitors. I am very guilty both to you and to our daughter." Back to his country cottage, he returned as a family man with his wife and daughter. Oh, my! He went to the wedding and returned with a complete set. Igor laughed at himself all the way. After the family was acquired, his life was filled with new meaning. Alenka had to be admitted to school. Katya. He thought that if he invested money in Katya's treatment and took her to a foreign clinic, she would definitely recover. He made a lot of effort to get the wife to get up on her feet, and really, Katerina's condition improved. She smiled more often, a blush appeared on her face, and for Igor, hope was lost that his Katya will definitely become the same. It's strange, but about Banya and Vladimir, he remembered less and less, and even believed that it was good that it happened. Thanks to the efforts and perseverance of her husband, Katerina lived another 2 years instead of the months promised by her doctors. One evening, when she herself got up and went to sit on the porch of their country house, Igor covered her shoulders with a warm blanket and sat next to her. "Katya, I love you more than life, and I love our Alenka very much. I will do everything for you," he said. Katya smiled sadly. "I am very grateful to you for your love and care. I feel very good, calm with you, and most importantly, I am now calm for our daughter." They sat together for a long time. Katya looked at the wonderful starry sky, and at night it disappeared. Igor was upset. During these 2 years he managed to bring his soul to Katerina and love her, and now he often recalled that day when they sat together on the porch for the last time and looked at the stars. He still went out. He sat down on the steps in the evenings and imagined that Katya was nearby. One day he heard light steps behind his back. Someone put a blanket on his shoulder. "Dad, it's cold. You'll freeze," said Ilyanka, sitting next to him. "Thank you, daughter," said Igor, hugging the baby and taking her under the blanket. They sat for a long time looking at the starry sky. "Dad, what do you think? And Mom sees us now?" Suddenly, Elena asked. "I would like to believe that." Igor smiled, not tearing his eyes off the sky. "Look over there. That brightest star is blinking at us. You see?" Elena nodded her head. "Yes, probably our mother is there." Since then, a new tradition has appeared in their small family. Igor and his daughter watched the starry sky in the evenings and waited for the brightest star to see them from above and nod. As for Anna, she came one day, cried, apologized for having done something bad, wanted to return the love of Igor. He listened to her without any embarrassment. "What is it, Anna? I don't have the right to judge you," he said. "I remember that I myself, once driven after a bright Fantic, forgot something important in life. On the contrary, I have to thank you. After all, it was thanks to you that I learned what real family happiness is."